I was exiled to the ODIPUS Space Station. Something is killing all of us. They told me the ODIPUS was hell. They lied. Hell is kinder. Hell is warm. I was sent here for the things I did, crimes so heinous that even Earth's overcrowded supermax prisons wouldn't take me. The judge barely looked at me when he sentenced me to exile, and the jury couldn't meet my eyes. The shuttle ride to the station was silent. There were 6 of us in the hold, chained to our seats. No windows, no farewells, just the sound of the engines and the quiet, desperate breathing of men who knew they'd never see sunlight again. ODIPUS orbits far beyond Mars, in the void where light is a suggestion. It's a monstrosity of steel and silence, a sprawling labyrinth of corridors, cells, and machinery. A prison built for the worst humanity could offer, and yet its capacity is never reached. That's the first thing you notice when you arrive: the emptiness. They docked us in silence. No guards greeted us. Our chains unlocked automatically, and the shuttle doors hissed open. A robotic voice directed us into the station. No humans, not a single soul. Welcome to the ODIPUS Correctional Facility. Your survival is not guaranteed. The words were clinical, dispassionate. They echoed through the airless hallways as we shuffled inside. I could feel the tension in the group. One man whispered a prayer. Another laughed under his breath, but it was the kind of laugh that comes before a scream. We were given rooms, small, cold cubes with beds bolted to the walls and ration dispensers that spat out grey sludge. The doors locked behind us. No explanations, no rules, no guards. By the second day, I realized why the cells were soundproofed. It started at night, or what passes for night here, when the artificial lights dim. A scream tore through the silence, sharp and wet. I froze in my bed, gripping the thin blanket like it could shield me from whatever was out there. The scream cut off, abruptly, leaving only the hum of the station's life support systems. The next morning, one of the men from the shuttle, the one who had been praying, was gone. His room was empty, the bed made. No sign he'd ever been there. We were down to 5. No one talked about it. We avoided each other in the hallways, kept our heads down during meals. I told myself he'd been taken somewhere, relocated maybe. But then the screaming started again. Night after night, it happened, and every time, someone disappeared. By the end of the week, it was just me and a man named Roscoe, a towering brute with tattoos snaking up his arms and a permanent scowl. "We're not alone," he had said that night, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't answer. There's something on this station. It's not human. I wanted to tell him he was crazy, that he was imagining things, but I'd heard it too. The sound of something moving in the walls, scraping, clicking, breathing. "I think they put us here to feed it," Roscoe said, his eyes darting to the vent in the corner of the room. That night, the screams came for him. I heard the door to his room hiss open, and then his voice, bellowing curses, the sound of a struggle, wet, tearing noises that made my stomach churn. I didn't leave my room. In the morning, Roscoe's room was empty. Now I'm alone. I've stopped eating the rations. My stomach growls, but the thought of swallowing that sludge makes me gag. The lights flicker sometimes, and I know it's watching me. Whatever it is, it's waiting. Last night, I barricaded the door with the bed frame. It won't stop it, I know that, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something, like I'm not just sitting here waiting to die. The scraping is louder now. It's closer. I can feel it in the walls. The station is silent, except for the hum of the life support systems and the sound of my own breathing. I sleep in fits, jerking awake at every sound. Time is meaningless here. The lights dim and brighten, but the intervals feel inconsistent, erratic, like whoever or whatever controls the station doesn't care if I know when day turns to night. I tried counting meals to keep track, but when I stopped eating, that system fell apart. I don't know how long I've been here. Maybe a week, maybe a month. The vent cover in my room has started rattling. It's subtle at first, like a whisper, but now it vibrates hard enough to make the screws wobble. I stare at it constantly, waiting for it to burst open. My throat feels raw from screaming at nothing, at the shadows in the corners and the noises in the walls. Yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today, I found blood, a thin trail of it, leading from one of the empty cells down the hallway to the vent shaft. It wasn't dry. I don't know how I managed not to throw up. I spent hours pressing my ear to the walls, listening. I swear I heard voices, faint and distorted, like they were coming from somewhere deep within the station. Or maybe it was the hum of the machinery playing tricks on me. I tried talking back, shouting, pleading, demanding answers. I got nothing but echoes. This station, it's too big, too empty. Half the doors I've tried are sealed shut, and the ones that aren't led to dead ends or vast, cavernous rooms filled with tangled wires and blinking lights. None of it makes sense. What's the purpose of all this space? Why would they build something so massive just to hold a handful of prisoners? I'm not even sure there's anyone controlling it anymore. The scraping sound is constant now, moving from one wall to another, traveling through the vents and ducts. Whatever it is, it's fast. I've seen glimpses of it, shadows darting just out of sight, a flash of something slick and black sliding around a corner. I tried following it once, armed with a broken chair leg. The corridor stretched on forever, each step echoing louder than the last. The air felt thick, suffocating. I turned a corner, and for a split second, I saw it. Eyes, dozens of them, reflective and hungry, like a cluster of void black stars staring straight into me. I ran. I didn't stop until I was back in my cell, slamming the door shut and shoving the bed frame against it. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I don't know what I saw. I don't want to know, but it's getting bolder. The lights flicker more often now, plunging me into darkness for minutes at a time. When they come back on, things are different. The vent cover is looser, my rations are missing, and sometimes I swear I hear footsteps, heavy, deliberate footsteps, stopping just outside my door. This place doesn't feel like a prison anymore. It feels like a trap, like it was never meant to keep us in, but to keep it in. I don't think it's trapped anymore. There's a new noise tonight, a low, guttural sound, like breathing but wrong. It's coming from the hallway. I haven't left my room since Roscoe disappeared, but I know I have to see what's out there. I can't stay here, waiting for it to come to me. I'm taking this recorder with me. If anyone finds this, if anyone's listening, don't come here. Don't send anyone here. The ODIPUS isn't a prison. It's a feeding ground. And we're the prey. I'm opening the door now. The scraping's stopped. I think it's waiting for me. I slid the bed frame away from the door as quietly as I could, but every scrape of metal against metal felt like a scream in the suffocating silence. My hands were trembling, and the recorder felt slick in my grip. The door hissed open, and for a moment I was paralyzed by the darkness. The hallway was dim, the overhead lights flickering sporadically. Long shadows stretched and twisted, like living things. The air was colder out there, biting against my skin. I stepped into the corridor, clutching the broken chair leg like a lifeline. Every instinct screamed at me to go back, to seal myself inside the cell and wait for the inevitable. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I had to know. The trail of blood I'd seen earlier was gone. The floor was spotless, as if the station had erased it. The faint hum of the station's systems pulsed beneath my feet, a rhythmic vibration that felt like a heartbeat. I walked slowly, my breath shallow and my ears straining for any sound. The vents along the walls were silent, their covers rattling gently with the movement of air. It was almost worse than the scraping and clicking. The quiet felt unnatural. I passed the empty cells of the other prisoners. Each door was wide open, the rooms inside cold and lifeless. Roscoe's cell was the last in the row, and I stopped it in front of it. The bed frame was still in place, shoved against the far wall. But there was something new. On the floor, etched into the steel in jagged, uneven strokes, was a single word: run. My heart stopped. I staggered backward, my pulse roaring in my ears. Then I heard it, a wet, slithering sound coming from the end of the hallway. I turned slowly, every muscle in my body locking up. At first, I didn't see anything, just shadows stretching out in all directions. And then the shadows moved. It stepped into the dim light, and for a moment, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything. A mass of glistening black flesh, shifting and writhing like it was alive. Its body was a twisted amalgamation of limbs and shapes, its surface reflecting the flickering lights like oil on water. Dozens of eyes blinked across its form, each one staring directly at me. And its mouth, if you could call it that, was a gaping hole, lined with rows of teeth, sharp and glinting. It didn't move right. It flowed, its body contorting and folding in ways that shouldn't have been possible. And as it approached, the air grew colder, heavier, like the station itself was suffocating me. My legs finally responded, and I ran. I don't know how I found the strength to move, but I sprinted down the corridor, my breath ragged and my chest burning. The sound of its pursuit was deafening, slithering, scraping, clicking. It was fast, too fast. I turned corners blindly, the walls and ceilings blurring together in my panic. The station felt endless, its layout a maze designed to trap me. And then I saw it. A door at the end of the hallway, larger than the others, with red warning lights flashing above it. I didn't hesitate. I threw myself at it, slamming the panel to open it. The door hissed and slid open just as the creature lunged. I stumbled inside and hit the panel again, the door slamming shut just in time. The thing hit the other side with a sickening thud, the metal buckling slightly under its weight. The room was massive, filled with consoles, monitors, and a central control panel that pulsed with light. I realized where I was, the station's control room. I collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. The door rattled as the creature slammed against it again and again, the metal groaning under the strain. My eyes scanned the consoles desperately. There had to be something, anything, that could help me. And then I saw it. A display flashing in bold red letters. Containment failure. Creature, Subject 001. Primary objective, survival protocol, active. Below it, a countdown. 10, 9, 8. I stared at the numbers, realization dawning on me like a knife to the gut. The station wasn't just a prison, it was an experiment. And now the experiment was over. I don't know what happens when the countdown reaches 0, but I think I understand why the shuttle never comes back for us. The door behind me is starting to give way. I think this is the end. If anyone hears this, if anyone finds this recording, don't send anyone here. Don't try to recover the station. Let it drift into the void. Let it die. Because if it doesn't, we all will. 3, 2, 1. The countdown hit 0. I braced myself for the end, squeezing my eyes shut and waiting for the creature to burst through the door or for the station to tear itself apart. But instead, the room filled with an ear-splitting alarm. Red emergency lights began flashing in sync with the blaring sound, and I heard a mechanical voice, flat and emotionless. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Estimated time to station detonation, 10 minutes. I froze, staring at the screen. It was counting down again, this time in minutes. 10:0, 9:59, 9:58. The door behind me groaned, bending under the weight of the creature. Its claws, or whatever passed for claws, scraped against the steel, a sound that sent icy needles down my spine. It was going to get in. I scrambled to my feet, my mind racing. The station was going to explode. There was no stopping it, no overriding the system. I didn't even know where to begin. My only thought was to escape. But how? The shuttle that had brought me here was long gone. There were no escape pods, no lifeboats. It was one of the first things I noticed when I arrived. ODIPUS wasn't designed for escape. But now I understood why. This place was a death sentence from the start, not just for us, but for it. The station was never meant to hold us forever. It was a containment zone for the creature, a trap designed to be sprung if and when it escaped. The creature slammed against the door again, harder this time, and I knew I didn't have long. I scanned the room, desperate for something, anything, that could get me off this station. My eyes landed on a small console near the back, its screen displaying a map of the station. I rushed to it, my hands trembling as I tapped at the interface. The map zoomed in, revealing the layout of the station in intricate detail. There, at the far end of the station, beyond the maze of corridors and sealed doors, was a secondary hangar. It wasn't listed in any of the information we'd been given when we arrived. Not that they'd told us much, but the console confirmed its existence. And there was a shuttle docked there, a way out. The timer on the console blinked relentlessly. 8:23, 8:22, 8:21. I didn't have time to think. I didn't have time to plan. I just ran. The door finally gave way as I bolted from the control room, the creature pouring through the opening like a tide of black oil. I didn't look back. I could hear it behind me, its movements fluid and unnatural, closing the distance far too quickly. I turned corners blindly, following the map in my mind, hoping I was remembering the layout correctly. The corridors blurred together, and the station seemed to twist around me, its architecture alien and wrong. The creature's clicking and scraping was deafening now, echoing off the walls. I could feel its presence behind me, a suffocating weight that threatened to crush me with every step. 6:47, 6:46, 6:45. The hangar was close. I could see the faint outline of a massive door ahead, its surface marked with warning symbols and emergency lights. I sprinted harder, my lungs burning and my legs screaming in protest. I reached the door and slammed my hand against the control panel. It didn't respond. No, no, no. I pounded on it, frantic, the seconds slipping away. The creature was nearly on me now. I could feel the cold radiating from its body, hear the wet guttural sounds it made as it approached. The control panel blinked, then buzzed to life. The door hissed open just as I threw myself through the threshold, hitting the panel on the other side to close it. The door sealed shut with a heavy clang, and for a moment, there was silence. But it wouldn't hold. I knew that. The hangar was vast, a cavernous space filled with equipment and machinery. And at the center, bathed in pale, flickering light, was the shuttle, my salvation. I ran for it, my body running on pure adrenaline. The creature was already pounding on the door, the metal denting with every blow. I climbed into the shuttle, my hands fumbling over the controls. It was old, older than anything I'd seen on the station, but the systems powered up with a low hum. 312, 311, 310, the creature screamed. A high-pitched, keening sound that reverberated through the hangar and made my ears ring. The door behind me buckled, the creature forcing its way through. I didn't wait. I engaged the launch sequence, the shuttle's engines roaring to life. The hangar doors began to open, revealing the black expanse of space beyond. The creature was inside now, its form twisting and expanding, filling the hangar with its impossible mass. It lunged for the shuttle, just as I hit the thrusters, the force slamming me back into my seat. The shuttle rocketed forward, the hangar disappearing behind me. I looked back, just once, through the small viewport. The station was a speck in the void, its lights flickering like a dying star. And then, with a silent, blinding flash, it was gone. The ODIPUS and the creature were no more. I don't know how long I floated in the void, staring at the emptiness around me. The recorder was still in my hand, and I pressed it to my lips, my voice hoarse and shaking. If you're hearing this, I made it out. But whatever they were doing on ODIPUS, whatever they created, it can't happen again. Burn the records, erase it all, and for God's sake, never build another station like it. I let the recorder drop to the floor and stared out into the stars, the silence of space pressing down on me. I was alive, but I wasn't free. Not really. Not with the memory of what I'd seen, what I'd survived. And in the back of my mind, one thought lingered. What if it wasn't the only one?